Hey guys, welcome back to a brand new YouTube video. In today's video, I'll be doing my updated 2023 NFL mock draft. Before we get started, yes, there will be more of these to come as the offseason progresses. And also, please subscribe. I'm trying to get to 80 subscribers by the end of 2023. And yeah, without further ado, let's get started. At number one overall, I feel like the Houston Texans are definitely in line for a quarterback. Yeah, I feel like Bryce Young. It's gonna be between Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud, but in my opinion, Bryce Young is the better of the two. His playmaking ability is completely out of this world, and yeah, he plays like a seasoned veteran, and yeah, that's why I'm gonna take him at number one. At number two, the Chicago Bears. I feel like they have a multitude of different needs. Obviously, being not a great built team, to put it lightly. And yeah, they have their quarterback of the future, so I feel like a quarterback like CJ Stroud would be completely out of question. But yeah, I feel like the Chicago Bears are. It's gonna be between Will Anderson and Jalen Carter. I feel like between those two, in my opinion, Will Anderson is the better of the two. He's a generational athlete at edge, and yeah, I believe he's one of, if not the best player in the draft. Um, and yeah, that's why I'm going to take him at number two for the Chicago Bears. At number three overall, the Seattle Seahawks. They're an interesting team. They've definitely come back from what seemed like a rebuild, and yeah, they're playoff contenders right now. So yeah, I feel like they are in a position where they don't really need to go quarterback if they don't have to. Obviously, with Geno Smith playing very well, but yeah, I feel like a guy like Jalen Carter who can stuff up the interior of their defensive line will work out really well for them in the future. And yeah, I feel like he'd be a great fit for them. At number four overall, the Arizona Cardinals. They're an interesting team. They have a bunch of different needs. But yeah, I feel like they can go with any of these players on the board besides quarterback because they have Kyler Murray. Johnson would be really good on the outside boundary of their wide receiving core. But other than that, they have Marquise Brown, who's injured a lot and is more of a slot receiver slash deep threat, if anything. Yeah, other than that, they don't really have much. And yeah, so I'm with Quentin John here. I feel like he can get inside DeAndre Hopkins. No five overall, the Indianapolis Colts. I feel like of players on this board, CJ Stroud is the most intriguing to them. They need to stop taking chances on veteran quarterbacks, and I feel like this is going to end with CJ Stroud. He's a great player and is definitely a top five player in the draft. And yeah, accuracy and athleticism is going to probably what gets him what's picked, be why he's picked. At number six overall, the Detroit Lions. Um, this will be their first pick, and I feel like out of all the players on this board, Keely Ringo is a guy that really stands out to me. He is a true shutdown boundary corner who can has incredible hockey skills. Like to be a great player on the outside boundary of their secondary to pair well with Foguda. And I feel like he'd fit really well in this scheme. At number seven overall, the Atlanta Falcons. I feel like of all the players on this board, Myles Murphy is a guy that stands out to me. He's a very long, explosive athlete on the defensive line, and yeah, paired with some good players, he can definitely very, very well. And yeah, that's why I'm gonna take him here at number seven. I feel like he's a good fit with this team, and I feel like with Desmond Ridder playing all right, you can't really tell with rookie quarterbacks like that in their limited starts. So yeah, I feel like they're gonna take Myles Murphy here. At number eight overall, the Las Vegas Raiders are definitely in an odd situation after benching Derek Carr for Jarrett Stidham. Jarrett Stidham played really well, and yeah, I feel like after that, I don't feel like Derek Carr has much time left to play. And yeah, for the Las Vegas Raiders at least. And yeah, I feel like that this is why when they will go with a quarterback here, and I feel like a guy like Will Levis, his strong arm talent and pocket presence will definitely make him a great quarterback in the NFL. I have a lot of faith in him, and I feel like that's why he will go at number eight to the Las Vegas Raiders. At number 9 overall, the Carolina Panthers. I mean, I feel like there's no bigger need for them, in my opinion, than quarterback, and I feel like a guy like Anthony Richardson would be good for them. He's a boomer bust type prospect, much like Josh Allen coming out of college. Incredible arm strength and insane athleticism. He's definitely a guy who can turn into a future All Pro at the next level if he has time to develop and has time to play even. And yeah, I feel like that's where they will go with Anthony Richardson, and yeah, stop their quarterback problems. Number 10 overall, the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, this is kind of unfair here. A top 10 pick as being the best team in the NFL. And I feel like they could go with a multitude of different players. Obviously, they could go linebacker with TJ Edwards, most likely leaving in free agency. They could even go corner, but I feel like a guy like Trenton Simpson here would be a good fit for them. He is a incredible player. Um, he can really line up on all sides of the field, or on all at all linebacker positions. Sometimes they'd even play as like almost like a box safety. They can play him at linebacker. I mean, I feel like he's a true chess piece here for the Philadelphia Eagles, and I feel like this would be a great pick for them. At number 11 overall, the Tennessee Titans. They have a lot of different needs. They are my favorite team, but I feel like Paris Johnson will be a good player for them. They need to bolster their offensive line. I feel like Paris Johnson could definitely solve that problem for many years to come. Number 12 overall, the Houston Texans. I feel like after taking Bryce Young here, they need a guy to pair him with. Obviously, with Brandon Cooks being very frustrated with the situation down there. I feel like a player like Jordan Addison can definitely play as a number one, and I feel like he is a true explosive threat. I feel like he pair really well with Bryce Young here, so yeah, that's why I'm going to take him. Number 13 overall, the New York Jets. They could go with some different players, but I feel like a guy like Noah Sewell will work out really well for them. So yeah, I feel like that's where they'll take the tackling monster out of Oregon. Number 14 overall, the Washington Commanders. They could go with some different selections here. Definitely kind of an interesting team. But yeah, I feel like a guy like Joey Porter or Cam Smith would work out really well for them in the long term at corner. I feel like a guy like Cam Smith would work out well. He's a very good number one corner, and I feel like he can solve their problems at the cornerback spot for many years to come. Number 15 overall, I feel like this will be a situation where there's back-to-back corners. A guy like Joey Porter would work out really well for them. Obviously, with Joey Porter Sr. playing for them as a linebacker, there would be a great family connection there. And I feel like a guy like Joey Porter is also an incredible player, so I feel like this would work out really well for them. At number 16, the Green Bay Packers. They have a multitude of different needs. Obviously, still trying to get into the playoffs. And yeah, I feel like a guy like Brian Branch would solve their problems in the secondary. They've obviously have not played very well with Adrian Amos being injured and Darnell Savage being injured as well. But yeah, I feel like Brian Branch would solve those problems. And yeah, I feel like he'd play very well there in Green Bay. Number 17 overall, the Detroit Lions. They're an interesting team. Obviously, after going with Kelee Ringo, they do still have problems on the defensive line. And I feel like a guy like Brian Bresee could solve those. He could play on all different parts of the defensive line. And I feel like he'd be a good player for them. Number 18 overall, the Seattle Seahawks. I feel like they're an interesting team. Definitely could go with some different players here for them. And yeah, I feel like this is really tough here. Still a great team, but yeah, they could go with a ton of different players. But a guy like Peter Skoronski could definitely help bolster that offensive line. And yeah, I feel like it's between Tyree Wilson or Peter Skoronski, but I feel like Peter Skoronski could be an underrated pick for them. Solve their problems at guard and maybe even offensive tackle if one of those guys gets hurt. He can definitely be a plug and play at either of those positions, and I feel like that's why they will take him here. Number 19 overall, the Jacksonville Jaguars. They are an interesting team. They could go wide receiver to bolster their wide receiver core, and I feel like that's where they will go here with Kayshon Boutte. Obviously, not having the greatest of seasons, but his yards after catch ability is incredible, and I feel like that's why they will take him here to bolster their receiving core and give him a number one receiver. Number 20 overall, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're an interesting team. They could go with some different players, but I feel like a guy like Tyree Wilson would definitely help them on the edge. Definitely getting older there, obviously with the departure of JPP and some different players being injured. I feel like Tyree Wilson is a guy that would definitely help him out there in that part of the defense. And yeah, that's why I'm going to take him here. Number 21 overall, the Patriots, or the New England Patriots. They have some different needs. They could go with a tight end maybe. But obviously, after already having Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith, I don't really feel like they really need that much. So yeah, that's why I'm gonna go with a wide receiver in Jackson Smith-Njigba. He hasn't played very much this season at all, but obviously last season he was definitely playing like a superstar receiver. And yeah, many projected him to go in the top 10, but because of his injuries this year, it's definitely pushed a lot of teams away. But I feel like a team like the New England Patriots could take a risk on him to be their number one of the future. Number 22 overall, the New York Giants. They could go with some different players, obviously with some needs all along this board. A guy like Michael Mayer would definitely help out here. Obviously, they already have Daniel Bellinger. He's played well, but I feel like Michael Mayer would be an upgrade over any of those guys on that team. I feel like this is where they go with him here. Number 23 overall, the Baltimore Ravens. They have some different needs, but I feel like a guy like Christian Gonzalez would definitely help him out in on the cornerback situation. Obviously, Marlon Humphrey will probably be their number one for a very long time, but Marcus Peters is definitely getting older and not playing as well as his contract says so. So I feel like a guy like Christian Gonzalez can shore up those problems, and yeah, with this selection here. At number 24 overall, the Los Angeles Chargers. They have some different needs, but yeah, I feel like this is definitely an odd pick here. But I feel like a guy like Josh Downs could give them a true deep threat here to pair up with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, and I feel like he'd be a good fit in their scheme. Give them a very quick, fast, deep threat, and yeah, I feel like he'd play very well there. Number 25 overall, the Cincinnati Bengals. They're an odd team, but I feel like they have a lot of good players, but they can't really protect Joe. They haven't been protecting Joe Burrow that well this year, and yeah, I feel like that's been a recurring theme for him in his career. So yeah, that's why I'm going to take Broderick Jones. Some analysts are projecting him to be the top offensive tackle in the class. I don't really think so, but I feel like he'd be a great player here and a steal for the Cincinnati Bengals. Number 26 overall, the Minnesota Vikings. They have some needs. Obviously, they could go corner. They do need some help at cornerback. I feel like this would be a good spot for them to go with Clark Phillips. He's a just a very competitive player, and I feel like he'd work well in their defensive backs. And yeah, I feel like that's where they will go with him here. Number 27 overall, the Dallas Cowboys. They have some different needs, but I feel like a guy like Isaiah Foskey, obviously a sack leader at Notre Dame now all time, beating out Justin Tuck's all time record. I feel like that definitely shows something here. He's obviously played very well this year, and I feel like he would be a good fit on the edge for the Dallas Cowboys. Number 28 overall, the Denver Broncos. They have some different needs, but I feel like a guy like Antonio Johnson who can really fly around the football would be a good pick for them here. And I feel like, yeah, he would definitely help out in their secondary and be a great player for them. Number 29 overall. This is a pick where they could go in some different directions. They could go on the edge here, but yeah, I feel like they already have some good depth there. And yeah, I feel like this pick will be all about protecting Josh Allen. I feel like O'Cyrus Torrence is the best guard in the class, and I feel like he'd be a good fit for them here. Number 30 overall, the Kansas City Chiefs. They could go with an edge player to help out Chris Jones, but I feel like a guy like Jahmyr Gibbs would be good for them. Obviously, help out Patrick Mahomes with a good pass catching back. Also with a great elusive quick back here. I feel like he'd work out very well for them. And I feel like this might be a situation where they go with double running backs back to back. And yeah, I feel like a guy like Bijan Robinson playing it behind the best offensive line in football. Obviously, Miles Sanders didn't make the Pro Bowl this year and has had a great season, but I feel like a guy like Bijan Robinson could even be an upgrade over that. That's why I feel like they'll go with him here. Anyways, thank you all for watching. Please like and subscribe. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.